Stop dyeing your gray hair. I know that sounds strange coming from a doctor. I know that for years, maybe decades, you have been making that trip to the salon every 4 to 6 weeks, or standing in front of your bathroom mirror with that box of dye, gloved hands, timer set, hoping this time the color looks natural, hoping this time no one will notice the roots coming in silver 2 weeks later. I need you to hear something important today. What is happening to your hair after 60 is not a cosmetic failure. It is not something you did wrong. It is not bad genetics catching up with you. It is a biological process, a very specific biochemical event happening inside your hair follicles, and once you understand what is driving that process, you will have exactly the tool you need to reverse it. I am your doctor, and here at Senior Diet Coach I have spent decades studying how nutrition and natural compounds interact with the aging body. What I am about to share with you today is the story of one single vitamin, a vitamin that most people over 60 have never heard of in the context of gray hair. A vitamin that has been shown in peer-reviewed clinical research to target the exact biological mechanism that causes your hair to lose its pigment after 60. And if you stay with me until the very end of this video, I am going to reveal the specific form of this vitamin that makes all the difference. Because most people are taking the wrong form. Most supplements on the shelf contain the wrong form. And the research is very clear on this distinction. This is the detail that separates the women who see their natural color return from the women who give up after 3 months and go right back to the dye bottle in frustration. Let me start by explaining what gray hair actually is, because the conventional wisdom is going to tell you that gray hair is just a normal part of aging, that your genetics decide when you go gray, and that once a hair turns white, there is nothing on this earth you can do about it. The conventional wisdom is wrong. And I am going to prove it to you with the science. Your hair gets its color from specialized cells called melanocytes. These cells live deep inside your hair follicles, and they produce a pigment called melanin. Every single strand of hair on your head, every single one, receives its color from melanin produced by these little melanocytes. When you are young, your melanocytes are active, they are productive, and your hair is rich with natural color. But here is what happens as you age. Around the age of 35, and accelerating dramatically after 60, something begins to change inside your hair follicles. A molecule that almost no one talks about, hydrogen peroxide, begins to accumulate. Yes, the same hydrogen peroxide you might have sitting in the brown bottle in your medicine cabinet. Your body actually produces small amounts of hydrogen peroxide naturally in every cell as part of normal metabolism. But as you age, the enzyme that breaks down hydrogen peroxide, an enzyme called catalase, begins to decline. Catalase production drops, and when catalase drops, hydrogen peroxide builds up. And when hydrogen peroxide builds up inside your hair follicles, it does exactly what you would expect it to do. It bleaches your melanocytes from the inside out. It destroys the pigment-producing cells one by one. Research published in the FASEB Journal, one of the most respected journals in biology in the world, documented this exact process. Scientists at the University of Bradford, in the United Kingdom, analyzed hair follicles from women at different ages, and what they found was extraordinary. As women aged, catalase activity decreased significantly, while hydrogen peroxide levels increased correspondingly. The researchers concluded that this hydrogen peroxide accumulation was the primary driver of melanocyte destruction and hair graying. This is why gray hair happens after 60. It is not a calendar problem. It is not purely a genetics problem. It is a biochemical imbalance. And if it is a biochemical imbalance, then correcting that imbalance can potentially reverse the process. Read that sentence again in your mind. Correcting the imbalance can reverse the process. Now here is where this gets truly fascinating, and this is the research that convinced me to sit down and record this video for you today. There is a vitamin that plays a direct and essential role in the catalase enzyme system, a vitamin that your body requires specifically to maintain adequate catalase levels and to support the healthy function of melanocytes in your hair follicles. That vitamin is PABA, para-aminobenzoic acid. Most people over 60 have never heard of PABA. It is not a vitamin that gets discussed on morning television. It is not on the cover of the lifestyle magazines. But in the world of nutritional biochemistry, PABA is recognized as a member of the B vitamin complex, sometimes called vitamin B10, and it has been studied specifically in the context of hair pigmentation for more than 60 years. Let me share the landmark study with you. In 1941, Dr. Benjamin Sieve, a researcher at Tufts Medical School, published a paper that would become one of the most cited studies in the entire history of hair pigmentation research. He administered PABA to a group of individuals who were experiencing premature graying, and the results were extraordinary. A significant percentage of participants experienced repigmentation of their hair, meaning their gray hair actually returned to its original color. And these were not subtle changes. These were not tricks of the light. The researchers documented visible, observable, measurable restoration of hair color in multiple participants. Since Dr. Sieve's original work, additional research has confirmed and expanded on these findings. A subsequent clinical study found that PABA supplementation, when combined with other B vitamins, specifically pantothenic acid and folic acid, produced even more significant results in restoring hair pigmentation. The researchers documented visible darkening of gray hair in individuals who had been completely gray for years, not months, years. Now let me explain the mechanism, because understanding the mechanism is what separates genuine science from folklore. PABA works through three distinct pathways inside the hair follicle. The first pathway involves the catalase enzyme I mentioned earlier. PABA serves as a precursor, a building block for the production of catalase in your cells. Think of it this way. Your body is a factory. That factory produces catalase, which breaks down hydrogen peroxide. But as the factory ages past 60, it begins to run low on raw materials. PABA is one of those raw materials. When you restore adequate levels of PABA, you are restocking the factory shelves. The catalase production line comes back online. Hydrogen peroxide levels begin to drop. And when hydrogen peroxide levels drop, your melanocytes finally get a chance to recover. The second pathway involves melanin synthesis directly. PABA has been shown in laboratory studies to stimulate tyrosinase activity, and tyrosinase is the key enzyme that melanocytes use to produce melanin pigment. Without tyrosinase, there is no melanin. Without melanin, there is no hair color. So PABA does not just protect melanocytes from hydrogen peroxide damage, it also stimulates them to produce more pigment. But the third pathway is perhaps the most overlooked, and honestly, the most important for women over 60. It involves something called the gut-skin-hair axis. Research published in the last decade has revealed that your gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria living in your digestive tract, produces B vitamins that your body then absorbs and uses for various functions throughout your body. And one of those functions is melanocyte support in the hair follicle. PABA is produced by specific strains of bacteria in a healthy gut. But here is the problem. Studies have shown that the gut microbiome changes dramatically with age, and the strains that produce PABA tend to decline sharply after 60. A study published in the journal Nature Communications found that the diversity and composition of the gut microbiome in individuals over 60 was significantly different from that of younger individuals. And critically, the bacterial strains that produce B vitamins, including PABA, were among those most affected by this age-related shift. This is not wellness folklore. This is not something I found on a blog. This comes from peer-reviewed research published in some of the most respected medical journals in the world. So PABA addresses gray hair not by dyeing it, not by covering it up, not by masking it, but by targeting the three specific biochemical mechanisms that cause it: hydrogen peroxide accumulation, tyrosinase decline, and gut microbiome changes. Before we continue, if you are finding this information valuable, please take 2 seconds right now and hit the subscribe button. Every week here at Senior Diet Coach, I bring you science-backed strategies exactly like this one. The kind of information your doctor may not have time to share with you during a 15-minute appointment. Hit subscribe so you do not miss a single video. Now let me tell you something that is going to surprise you, and this may be the single most important piece of information in this entire video, so listen carefully. There is a food source of PABA that is more bioavailable than any supplement, more effective than any pill you can buy at the pharmacy, and it is something that almost every woman over 60 already has, or can find for a few dollars, right in her own kitchen. It is blackstrap molasses. Blackstrap molasses is the dark, thick syrup that remains after sugar cane has been boiled 3 times to extract the sugar crystals. It is what is left behind when everything sweet and refined has been removed, and what remains is one of the most nutritionally dense substances in the entire food supply. Blackstrap molasses contains PABA in a naturally occurring form, but more importantly than that, it contains a complex of cofactors that dramatically enhance PABA absorption and utilization in the aging body: copper, iron, magnesium, and the full B vitamin family, including pantothenic acid and B6. These cofactors matter because PABA does not work in isolation inside your body. Like every nutrient in human biology, it operates as part of a biochemical team. The copper in blackstrap molasses, for example, is a cofactor for tyrosinase, the very same enzyme that produces melanin. The iron supports oxygen delivery to the hair follicle. The B vitamins work synergistically with PABA to support the entire melanocyte system. When you take PABA as an isolated supplement from a bottle, you miss these cofactors. When you consume it as part of a whole food like blackstrap molasses, you get the complete biochemical package that nature designed. But there is a specific way to take blackstrap molasses for gray hair reversal after 60, and the details matter enormously. So let me give you the exact protocol. You will take 1 tablespoon of unsulfured blackstrap molasses every single morning. Unsulfured. That word matters. Unsulfured means it has not been treated with sulfur dioxide as a preservative. Sulfur compounds can interfere with copper absorption, and as I just explained, copper is essential for melanin production. So it must say unsulfured on the label. This is not negotiable. Put the sulfured jar back on the shelf and reach for the unsulfured one. You will dissolve that tablespoon of blackstrap molasses in a cup of warm water. Not hot water, warm water. The temperature should be comfortable enough to drink immediately, without burning your tongue. Hot water can damage some of the heat-sensitive B vitamins. Warm water dissolves the molasses effectively without risking any nutrient degradation. Stir it thoroughly until the molasses is fully dissolved and the water is dark and uniform in color. Drink it on an empty stomach, first thing in the morning, before your coffee, before your tea, before your breakfast. Why an empty stomach? Because the minerals and B vitamins in blackstrap molasses are absorbed most efficiently when they do not have to compete with other nutrients from a meal. On an empty stomach, absorption rates for iron, copper, and B vitamins are significantly higher. You are giving your body the cleanest possible delivery of these nutrients right at the start of the day. Now let me address the question that I know so many of you are asking right now in front of your screens. How long will this take? When will I actually see results? I want to be honest with you, and I always will be. Hair pigmentation is a slow biological process. You are not dyeing your hair. You are rebuilding the biochemical environment that allows your melanocytes to function again. That takes time, but it does happen. Here is what the research shows. In the original FASEB study from 1941, visible repigmentation was observed beginning at approximately 8 to 12 weeks of consistent PABA intake. More recent clinical observations suggest that the combination of PABA with its full team of cofactors, exactly what blackstrap molasses provides, may accelerate this timeline somewhat. So here is a realistic timeline for you. In the first month, you will likely notice that your hair overall appears healthier, more shine, more body, less brittleness, less breakage in the brush. This is the result of improved mineral status and improved oxygenation of the hair follicle. These are the early signals that the protocol is working underneath the surface. In month 2, many women notice that the rate of new gray hair growth appears to slow. The existing gray hairs are still there, of course, but the pace at which new gray strands are appearing seems to diminish. This is a critical milestone. It means the hydrogen peroxide accumulation is being controlled. In month 3 to month 4, this is when the magic starts. This is when visible repigmentation typically begins. You may notice that new hair growth right at the roots is coming in darker. You may notice individual strands that show a distinct band of your natural color near the root, then transition to gray toward the ends. That is the moment when everything changes. Because what you are seeing in the mirror is physical evidence that your melanocytes are coming back online. Evidence that the pigment factory inside your hair follicles is producing melanin again. evidence that the hydrogen peroxide damage is being reversed. Consistency is absolutely everything here. Please hear me. Your body has been losing catalase and accumulating hydrogen peroxide in the hair follicles for years, possibly for decades. You cannot reverse that in a week. You cannot reverse it in a month. You can reverse it over 3, 4, 5 months of daily consistency, but only if you are consistent. Now I want to add one more element to this protocol that multiplies the effectiveness of everything I have just described. And this is another component that almost no one in the natural health space is discussing. Scalp massage with rosemary oil. I know that sounds unrelated to gray hair, but the research connection is compelling. A 2015 study published in the journal Skin Appendage Disorders found that scalp massage increases blood circulation to the hair follicle and stimulates dermal papilla cells, the cells responsible for hair growth and follicle health. When you apply rosemary oil during that massage, you add a second, powerful layer of benefit. Rosemary contains carnosic acid, a compound that has been shown in laboratory research to have neuroprotective and antioxidant effects, protecting cells from oxidative damage. More relevantly, rosemary oil has been shown in a clinical trial published in 2015 to be just as effective as minoxidil, the leading pharmaceutical treatment for hair loss, in promoting hair growth after 6 months of use. For gray hair reversal, the mechanism is a little different from hair growth, but the benefit is very real. Rosemary oil stimulates circulation directly to the follicle. Increased circulation means increased delivery of nutrients, including PABA and its cofactors, directly to the melanocytes where they are needed. Better circulation means better nutrient delivery. Better nutrient delivery means better melanocyte function. Here is the protocol. Twice per week. Just twice per week. Apply 5 drops of rosemary essential oil, mixed with 1 tablespoon of a carrier oil, either jojoba oil or coconut oil, both work beautifully, onto your fingertips. Massage this blend into your scalp using small, gentle circular motions. Cover your entire scalp, front to back, side to side. Spend a full 5 minutes on this massage. Do not rush it. The duration matters because it takes approximately 3 to 4 minutes of sustained massage to achieve the peak increase in scalp blood flow. Do this in the evening. Leave the oil in overnight, letting it work while you sleep. Wash your hair as normal in the morning. That is it. This combined protocol, the blackstrap molasses drink every morning plus the rosemary oil scalp massage twice per week, is what I would recommend to any woman over 60 who wants to address gray hair at its biological root, rather than covering it up every 4 to 6 weeks for the rest of her life. Now let me address a question I receive frequently. What about catalase supplements? There are products on the market that claim to contain catalase enzymes in a capsule that will reverse gray hair when you swallow them. Here is the problem with that approach, and it is a fundamental problem of biochemistry, not opinion. Catalase is a protein. When you swallow a protein, your stomach acid and your digestive enzymes break it down into individual amino acids. It does not survive digestion as a functional enzyme. You cannot eat catalase and expect it to travel intact to your hair follicles. It simply does not work that way. That is why so many women waste money on those bottles and see nothing happen. This is precisely why PABA, the precursor, the building block, is the superior strategy. You are not trying to import catalase from outside. You are giving your body the raw materials to produce its own catalase, in its own cells, exactly where it is needed. The body is not broken, it is undersupplied. Give it what it needs, and it knows what to do. One more crucial piece of information before we close, and this addresses a concern that so many women over 60 have raised with me over the years. Hair dye is making the problem worse. I am not saying this to be alarmist. I am not saying this to make you feel guilty. I am saying this because the science absolutely supports it. Most commercial hair dyes, particularly the permanent dyes you get at the salon or in the box at the drugstore, contain a compound called paraphenylene diamine, or PPD. PPD works by penetrating the hair shaft and reacting with hydrogen peroxide to produce color. Without hydrogen peroxide, most permanent hair dyes would not work at all. Do you see the problem yet? You are applying hydrogen peroxide directly to your hair and your scalp every 4 to 6 weeks. The very same molecule that is destroying your melanocytes from the inside. the very same molecule that your declining catalase levels are already struggling to neutralize, and then you are pouring more of it right onto the source. A study published in the International Journal of Trichology found that long-term use of oxidative hair dyes was directly associated with higher levels of oxidative stress in the scalp and hair follicle. The researchers documented elevated markers of cellular damage in the follicles of individuals who used permanent hair dye regularly. This is why so many women over 60 find themselves trapped in this endless cycle. They dye their hair because it is gray. The dye introduces more hydrogen peroxide to the follicle. The hydrogen peroxide further damages the remaining melanocytes. More melanocytes are destroyed. More gray hair appears. So they dye again, and the cycle continues, month after month, year after year. Breaking this cycle requires two things. First, you must stop applying hydrogen peroxide to your scalp. This means transitioning away from permanent, oxidative hair dyes. I understand that this is difficult. I understand that the social pressure to cover gray hair, especially for women over 60, is immense. But if you are serious about reversing gray hair, rather than just covering it, you cannot at the same time be applying the very chemical that is causing it in the first place. The transition can be gradual. You do not need to go cold turkey tomorrow morning, but I would strongly recommend transitioning to henna-based dyes or semi-permanent colors that do not require a hydrogen peroxide developer. These products are significantly less damaging to the follicle, and they will not sabotage the biological work you are doing with the PABA protocol. The second requirement is consistency with the blackstrap molasses protocol. Every day, empty stomach, warm water, 1 tablespoon of unsulfured blackstrap molasses, twice weekly rosemary oil scalp massage, and patience. Patience is the ingredient no one wants to hear about, but patience is what turns science into results. I have now given you everything you need: the science, the mechanism, the protocol, the specific form of the nutrient that makes the difference, the cofactors that support it, the additional element that amplifies the effect, and the warning about what will silently undermine all of it. Before I close, I want to share one thought that I believe is important, especially for the women over 60 watching me right now. Gray hair is not a disease. It is not something to be ashamed of. For many women, gray hair represents experience, wisdom, and a life fully lived. And I respect that perspective completely. If you have embraced your gray, I celebrate that choice with you. But I also know that for many women, perhaps for most of the women who found themselves watching this video today, gray hair feels like something that was taken from them without their consent. It arrived earlier than they expected. It aged their appearance in a way that does not match how they feel on the inside. And every trip to the salon, every hour spent standing over a bathroom sink with a box of dye, feels a little like surrender. A quiet admission that their body is doing something they wish it would not do. If that describes you, I want you to know something. There is a biological pathway to reversal. It is not instantaneous. It is not effortless. But it is real. It is supported by peer-reviewed science. And the protocol is sitting in your kitchen right now waiting for you. I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me your age and when you noticed your very first gray hair. Was it in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s? What did it feel like the first time you saw it in the mirror? And if you decide to try this protocol, the blackstrap molasses and the rosemary oil, I want you to come back in 3 months and tell me what happened. I read every single comment on this channel. Everyone. Your experience may become the evidence that convinces another woman to try. Your story matters here. And before you leave, think of one person in your life who has been silently struggling with this. A friend, a sister, a neighbor you see at the salon every 6 weeks, sitting in that chair, waiting for the color to take. Share this video with her. You have just learned something that cost you nothing but a little time, and for the right woman at the right moment, it could change the way she sees herself in the mirror for the rest of her life. Until next time, take care of your body. It has carried you this far, and with the right information, it will carry you so much further.